Welcome everyone to another episode of End of Life Conversations Current Events, a new weekly segment. I am the editor here and minister and grief counselor in training, Sam Lee Zemke.
And I'm Wakil David Matthews, and interfaith minister, counselor, etc. You know us from the podcast.
Yes, yes, yes. We have our this hat. My name is the Reverend Mother Ana Luisa Armendariz, End of Life Conversations podcaster and death midwife
Yeah,
to all.
to all. Yeah. So Sam had a really interesting thing that he wanted to bring up from last time that we talked, and so why don't you go ahead, Sam? Let's get going on that.
Yeah, yeah. After we finished up last time, I I was struck, and we talked about the voices or the people, the deaths, um, in this ice surge, in this state murder spree that we're not seeing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring attention to the ones that we are seeing very explicitly.
Right.
That that there is, there is something different to seeing it. And I think what kicked off so much of a different flavor of outrage, and I think uh, it's right to question why there's disproportionate outrage from one
Yeah.
person, one death to another,
Mhm.
but noticing that with Renee Good also,
Yeah.
um, that we saw it in front of our eyes. We saw the execution of these people and the soul,
Multiple times.
and multiple
Right. Yeah.
times from
Over and
Mhm.
multiple
over.
angles over and over and
Mhm.
over again.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
has a different impact than reading a name, than reading an obituary or reading an
Mhm.
account. It's this undeniable, like, thing. So I
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about that and talk about the the presence of our phones, the presence um of just witnessing death in various forms. The genocide in Palestine. Also, we've been watching that for years in a new way that we didn't see in the past, and how that has picked up our awareness and impacted us.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
is what I have brought for
Yeah.
our
Thank you.
dialogue today.
Yeah. Well, and I think, we think about like Ukraine. We watched Ukraine for the first year or so. And the other thing that happens with that is you get numbed out, I think. And also the
We
news sort
do.
of just goes, oh, well, we've talked enough about that. How often have you seen anything about the destruction in the Ukraine lately? Or even in
Right.
Gaza for that matter?
Mhm.
That's an old story. Now we're not watching it anymore. And then there's
Mhm.
the little 5-year-old, with its cute little backpack.
Liam.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All these things, the way the news cycle works is it's in our faces and we're like overwhelmed by it and we're talking about it and we're doing things and then the next thing comes up. And it's also part of the tactics that are being deployed by our government right now to overwhelm us with more and more
Mhm.
insanity to try to keep us from
Tragedy.
thinking about any of the any of those, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and even before the government at large was creating distractions to keep us from, like, being human.
Yeah.
I think even before then, the onset of the telephones brought, and I'm gonna tell you, like, when COVID started, I used to refresh my phone, like, I don't know, 100 times a day to see if there was more news, right? Like, what else is going on? Where are people, like, in this dystopian kind of absence of connection in the real world? I was checking that phone to see Italy and to check, different states. Where's my dad at? Is there some news coming from there?
Yeah.
And, we're rubberneckers, you know?
Right.
We're like
Mhm.
death rubberneckers, like, "Oh, where's it happening?" What's going on? And it's both, like, important, and also it creates a desensitization of our valuing of life, whether it be children, immigrants, trees, animals, right? Like, we're just like, "Oh, yeah, okay,"
Mhm. Mhm.
frog that's gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really appreciate this conversation because I think people want to talk about again, people want to have this conversation, but we don't know where to begin. How do we
Right.
talk about like I'm feeling strange reading about this loss, watching this take place on my phone. It's harrowing and then, what do we do?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does our soul need to do?
Yeah. Well, yeah, one thing we do, and that seems to be coming up with a lot of people now as we get together and talk about it, or
Yeah.
we get together with our, communities and we cry about it, or we do ceremony around
Mhm,
it, ritual.
mhm,
So those
mhm,
are things we talk about, and of course, our last, podcast episode was how you start conversations, which is, again, sort of that same thing, and then one coming up at the end of next month will be about ritual and ceremony, so those are, things that are on top of mind for us,
mhm.
and so that's one answer to that question. But I just talk more, Sam, about the impact that you think that has on us, on you.
I think you both spoke to it really well. The tension of both a more immediate response and also some of the desensitization as it goes along. I remember especially after October 7th in Palestine,
Mhm,
the heightened emotion and the response, and people were out in the streets and people were responding in a really, really big way because it hit us so hard. And then
mhm,
over just years of that happening, and now there's other things, other, um,
Losses and chaos.
losses and
Yeah.
chaos and death in our immediate lives. Um, which, can be discussed in a design or opportunism also.
Yeah.
Um, you know, don't look at that because you got to deal with what's in front of you now. One of the things that seems to be arising, and it's some of the reports out of Minneapolis, is how potlucks and block parties have become places of community organizing
Yeah.
for
mhm,
people
mhm.
to come together and build community with one another and grieve together and support one another. And, it can
Mhm,
all roll
mhm.
from one lady making sandwiches for the community,
Yeah.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
and
right.
then
Well, and I really appreciate that folks are doing that because it is part of our ritual when somebody has passed to get the food, to set up, a circle of chairs, maybe build a bonfire, maybe play music. And it gives us this time and space to grieve slowly and, process what we have just experienced, but with today, with our constant, phone and or community at large being targeted, it does feel like we almost need like a 24/7 grief space, right? Like, because shit's happening all the time and all of us are processing at different speeds and different moments in different ways. And I was just thinking about this, like this, there has to be, and we know this, but there's a human dissonance, like, we cannot process this much grief so fast.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
really hard, and even though we're pained by these images, and then we go through this we spiral into this our grief circles, and I feel like our body wants more. I feel like our
Hmm.
hearts need more. I feel like the somatic desire to connect with others and hug each other is there, and it's not enough. We don't have it. We're not able to do this in this time and space.
So true. So true. Yeah. I was going to say one of the other things that is a part of this media that we have is that we also are not being shown a lot of things that are people that are being harmed. It's like it's chosen for us by either algorithms or the media companies, or whomever. Um, so we are also maybe not paying as much attention or noticing as much as we should be or could be, of the other things that are dying and being lost, and the other people who are being
Harmed.
squashed, and harmed,
Mhm.
and other things that are being harmed, because it's not. we can't, for one thing, we couldn't possibly process all of it even if we wanted to,
Mhm.
right? But even then, it's like, since these things are chosen for us by algorithms and by media organizations, what are we missing? What are we not seeing
Mhm.
that we would want to see and that we would wanna pay attention to, and how do we make those connections? And that, again, I think, is community can help us with that, right? Because
Mhm.
our community
Mhm.
is like, we can gather right here, right now, the 3 of us, and start saying, "Oh, yeah, what about that? What about that?" And
Mhm.
so that's where community can also be a really important, part of this processing.
Right. It's like a positive outsourcing of attention rather than the
Well,
negative
Yeah.
outsourcing of attention that is relying entirely on digital spaces on our phones
That's right.
or the feeds that what Keely you're saying, are designed for us in a whatever,
Right.
makes money or does
Or keeps
achieves a
us
goal that is not our own.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
it's achieving that goal, that's right. Yes, and, I would love to see more footage of groups getting together in their community, right? Like, it
Yeah.
would just be so delightful, like, sandwiches being passed out and, the hugs given to one another.
I'll offer you a hug.
Yes.
Here. I saw a wonderful video that
Mhm.
oh, hug. I saw a
Yay!
wonderful video from the recent LA protests, anti-ICE protests, where um, a group of people were out protesting, and a veteran came up in full reaction mode, full adversarial, like, "You're disrespecting. Why aren't you respecting, the people uh, that are sacrificing for this?" And rah 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 rah. And it was getting big, and he started to walk away, and you can hear somebody off in the distance being like, "Man, I'm just trying to see if you need a hug." And he's like, rah, walking away, and he's like, what did you say to me? And he's like, "Do you want a hug? Do you need a hug?" And the guy turned around, and they walked up to each other, and they hugged each other.
Alright.
And, like, people in this crowd are immediately weeping and are like, "Yeah." And then another guy with a camera goes up and hugs the guy, and, like, that was so powerful. That was so
Wow.
powerful
Yeah,
to
yeah,
see,
yeah,
and more of
yeah.
that.
Well, Bad Bunny said it last night, right? Like, "Meet hate with love."
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, and I think, it's such that's so beautiful, and maybe, something would be really valuable, it would be to learn how to, play, or how to, yeah, play the algorithms, to just start thinking about, instead of automatically spending it's moments that you spend on things, right? That's how they do it. So if you start thinking about, "I'm gonna spend more time watching people hugging each other. I'm gonna
Mhm.
spend more time watching people singing together. I'm gonna spend more time, and then I'm gonna slip right by the pain and the suffering and the sorrow." It
Mhm.
would change you could train your algorithm. There should be a
Yeah.
whole course on training your algorithms.
Well, one, our algorithm will pick this up from listening to our conversation.
Right?
It's already, like, generating, like, where am I gonna go? Because I have to tell you, in the evenings, I like to go to right before sleep, I try to find parrot videos on my Instagram, and
Mhm.
every night I get parrot videos, and I'm like, "Ha
Imagine.
ha, ha ha,"
Yeah.
from my, my nightly cackle.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
And I think
my wife
go
likes
ahead.
the babies, the laughing babies, so now
Yeah, I
Ugh,
every time
like
she
this.
turns
what do you li
I'm on a sea lion kick.
love it.
Watching sea lions go, "Arr!"
Yeah, yeah. But,
And
I guess it is true, like, it gives us delight, like, we should actually delight in the people actually connecting through hugs and laughter and song, right? Like, what
Yeah.
right.
a
And the beauty of the world, and understand also the emotional whiplash that that can cause.
Mhm.
If you're upsetting your algorithm and you have bombed out rubble next to a cute cat video, there's an impact to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Mhm.
emotional state. I think about the Marvel movies, or the Disneyfication that we've been looking at in media, where every time there's an emotionally vulnerable scene, it gets uh, followed up with a joke,
Mm.
and the amount of discussion that's happened in media analysis circles about emotional whiplash and that, and seeing
hmm,
that in
Yeah.
like a real world way, and these are what we're talking about. I think is just noticing. What are we noticing
Yes.
and what
Yes.
are we not noticing? And
Yeah.
so bringing awareness to those pieces and,
Mhm.
to return to our point here, what what griefs are we noticing and what are running around underneath our consciousness
Mm.
that
Right.
we're still carrying, still holding, and maybe don't have anywhere to go. Um,
Mhm.
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm. It would
Yeah,
be
it becomes a
really
burden, right? It becomes
it
something
does.
heavy that we can't even understand.
Yeah, we
I
may
mean,
not even know.
everybody's, talking about how tired they are all the time. It could be that is the symptom of our burden.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure that's true. Yeah. I mean, everybody I know is telling me when I talk to them how tired they are and how overwhelmed they feel, and they'll blame it on their work or they'll blame it on, just not getting enough sleep or whatever.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I bet you could easily prove that a lot of it has to do with exactly what you're talking about, Sam. This disconnect that happens when we
Mhm.
are being hammered by different takes, and I also think that's a very normal response, kind of, protecting yourself by coming back with humor or coming back with, distraction of whatever sort because it's hard, it's painful, and it hurts, and so nobody wants to be hurt, nobody wants to be in pain,
Mhm.
but, pain's there for a reason too. You know, we need that. Without it, we don't notice what we need to notice, right? So
Yeah, it makes me think of, traditions that they have the Sabbath too, because you probably have time to somatically metabolize the information that has been in front of you for this whole week, right? And you're like, oh,
mm,
and rest and breathe and take a walk and do nothing but process.
yeah. Or the mini Sabbaths that I've heard recommended that just, like where your phone is automatically turns off at
Mhm.
11 o'clock at night and doesn't come back on until 9 in the morning. You've got that mini time to stay and process and not be looking at the media,
Mhm. Mhm.
So, I think those are good practices to suggest too. Just take some time. Your phone does actually most phones do actually have applications on them that will turn them off, you know, and take a
silence
break.
them. Yeah,
Yeah, just put
so
them
they
Mhm.
don't.
into silence mode so you don't have to be aware noticing, or you can put timers too. That's the other thing that is
Mhm.
something I've suggested to people who tell me they're addicted to YouTube or they're addicted to TikTok or whatever. You can put timers on them and then they'll turn themselves off.
They do.
Yeah.
My daughter put
Uh,
a timer on my Instagram a while ago, and I was like, "Wow, I really do watch that much."
yeah, I know. It
No
surprises.
longer.
No longer,
No
right?
longer.
They give you a little thing. Do you want to keep going?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Well, are there more parrot videos?
I found one recently that will put an overlay in front, and I can actually set it up so that it forces me to take 2 deep breaths, do 4 rounds of box breathing before I can reaccess it and interrupt the habitual cycle.
Cool.
That's pretty fun. It's called Screen Zen. I don't know if we're
I'm gonna
Love
check
teaching
it.
that out.
things here, but that's been really helpful, and pretty detailed control.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
that
I mean, there's a question or there that brings up the topic of, like, boundaries.
mhm.
How do we have healthy boundaries in ourselves, in our world, in our community? How do we, like, you know oh god, I was seeing something the other day about, uh, burnout and overwhelm, and oftentimes we can see that and, we can feel that, I guess,
Mhm.
and the response is to withdraw.
Yeah,
And to say, "I'm so tired, I'm so overwhelmed, I need time alone, I need to shut down, I need to have those strong boundaries go in a shell." But sometimes, especially in times like this, back to outsourcing some of this processing that we have to do is sometimes, even if it's hard, go see your friends or, do something engaged with the community if you can find it, and finding purpose, finding activity can help to unburden that
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
that
To
part.
re-nourish yourself for
Mhm.
your soul. But I am gonna throw this out too. So I really appreciate the idea of rather than withdrawing to go find somebody, but we probably all know people who spend all their time spewing every bit of vitriol, and they are not watching the cute sea lion videos, I promise you, they are not, or parrots or
Right.
kitties, and, how do we talk about and it's very I have a very I wanna be cautious about what I'm about to say because I know that there are people who are experiencing a grief of a loved one who their grief cycle may last a year,
Mm.
10 years, and people might end up not wanting to engage with them because they like, "Oh my god, here we go again. We're gonna talk about the thing," right? And then, conversely, like, people who only want to discuss the travesties of every moment of every day, and there's nothing else. There's no joy to be found in any corner of their time astral plane, you know? So how do we negotiate a boundary for oneself while giving people the space that they need to speak out their grief, right? Like,
Mm,
I think it's rare, but you do find people who only kind of obsess about, their one thing, one loss, and I appreciate that because you don't know we don't know all their story, right? So how
mhm.
can we both take care of them and take care of ourselves?
Good question, and good thing about, good thing to consider and try to be discerning about, and I think I mean, because we're the kind of people who give and wanna give and minister,
Mhm.
that's our work, right? For us, it's like, yeah, we'll our boundaries might be not quite as needful as others, maybe. We've trained and we purposely do that. We wanna do that. But then again, even no matter who you are, there's some point at which you need to really be checking in, and that's why I think that the whole process of just like Sam said, take some breaths, and notice what your body's doing. Let your body tell you, if your body's starting to clamp up, or if you're noticing that's a noticing that can help you to say, you know what, I just need to take a break for a while. Maybe we could talk again tomorrow or something. So you don't shut people down, but you say this is,
Right,
you're honest about it. And I think
right,
all of us could use more of that kind of somatic training just to be aware of our bodies and what our bodies are
right,
telling us, right?
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a self-awareness, but I am gonna also say this, and I think I've mentioned this story I've probably told this story before, but, uh, what is that big, church in, San Francisco? Glide?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's big okay. Were you there with me the day that we went and somebody came in from the street and disrupted the choir? Were you
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And
So I tell this story all the time because especially now that I'm, working in a community like with the unhoused populations and it makes people nervous to have somebody just like vent, right? And I understand. It's like there is something in their lived experience that is very deeply wounding, very grief riddled. Like they want to talk about this. And sometimes I do have time to sit there and listen. I It's not a problem, right? But what I do appreciate about that moment I learned from Glide was to not turn away, but to mirror back what the person said. So in this instance, you could say something like, I hear that it's really hard for you to have experienced XYZ. I'm really sorry that it's still so present to you. And, that way they are heard and you're not, like, just cutting them off, in their grief. And, if you have the capacity, you could continue to listen and keep mirroring back in that moment. Or you could say, "Right now, I don't have the time or space or energy or bandwidth to carry this on, but I hope you find somebody who can accompany you during this time." Because it's a dignified way of saying, "I see what you're doing,
yeah.
what's going with you, and I personally can't take care of it right now, but I think that you can, you can find folks to help."
Yeah.
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 The grace you were modeling, Ana Luisa, of communicating to somebody that they are being heard and that having somebody to listen to them or hold space is something that, like, they deserve, that we all deserve to have somebody, like,
Mhm,
listen to us,
mhm,
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
mhm.
hard when we're stuck on a one thing and, the person who's gonna talk about the one hard thing or all the hard
Again.
things in the world again and
Mhm.
again and
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and actually the story you told early on about the person being hugged, that was that kind of response in a way. That was somebody not just saying, "I'm afraid of you, I don't want you around, you're scaring us." It's like, "You know what?
Mhm.
Maybe what you need is a hug, and I'm gonna offer that to you." And
Mhm,
that's another way you can respond to that. I mean, it can be threatening. Yeah, I mean, there's people out there that are so angry, so hurt.
Mhm.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
did a, event down here for No Kings or whatever it was. I don't remember what losing track.
Which one?
mhm,
Yeah.
And there was a whole bunch of us down by our ferry dock here in Edmonds, and somebody in the ferry line got out of his car and came out to and started cursing at us and yelling at us and telling us, how horrible and stupid we were. Really, cruel and mean and nasty stuff. The responses were very interesting up and down the line. This is, of course, because it's suburban Seattle. It was mostly old white folks, right?
mhm.
And he's shouting about, who's you guys have never spilled blood for, and several people said, "Oh, yes, I have,"
Mhm.
and but there was things like, for one thing, at one point everybody just started laughing. That was interesting. It was kind of overwhelmed the cursing with laughing. But then somebody next to me said, "Tell me what's hurting you right now. So where have
Mhm.
you been hurt?"
Mhm.
And of course, he didn't pay any attention to that. And it occurred to me
Mhm.
that in that case, like, he was across the street, across like 4 lanes of traffic. But if somebody had been on that side of the street and had walked up to him and said, "Hey, could you use a hug? Or can you want to just come over here? I'll
Mhm.
buy you a cup of coffee and you can tell me more about what's on
Mhm.
your heart and why
Mhm.
this is so important to you." It could have been a
Mhm.
way of, I mean, he might also have just told him to go to hell. But it's interesting, and it takes courage to do that, right? And so I just want to make the point here that it's worth it, and that taking the courage to say, "Hey, maybe you just need a hug," or, can I hear more about what's on your mind and what's on your heart, and I'll buy you a cup of coffee. Let's go sit down over here. Anything like that,
Mhm.
even though it's can be scary and dangerous even, I encourage people to try to rise up to that place, because it can be a way to break down those barriers that we really need.
Mhm.
And I'm also gonna just, like, have a little PSA here for folks who are, "I'm gonna go out and hug." Before you do that, also assess, right? Because
Yeah.
there are neurodivergent my daughter would flip out if you hugged her, so, you have to in those moments when people are spewing vitriol and harshness, and yes, maybe you're ready to, like, just open up with a hug. I find that sometimes just holding my heart and just being like, "I am so sorry that you're feeling this right now, and if I could do anything in this moment for you, would you take a hug or would you, whatever, or a cup of coffee?" But take care of yourself and also demonstrate very gently, like, how are you available, right?
Mhm,
Not
mhm.
everybody wants a hug.
Yeah,
Some
And
people
not
just want a
everybody
slap.
yeah, not everybody has the space to de-escalate in a
Yeah,
situation like that.
yeah, and
Sometimes
That's
it
right.
there's just not an opening to bring somebody down from that heightened state because
Right.
we're all heightened, and a lot of
Yeah,
people don't have the skills, the tools to
Mhm.
bring
yeah,
down,
and there's good
Mhm.
trainings. I would recommend looking for training,
Mhm.
because there are trainings about dealing with that kind of stuff, and I think it's really important to have that kind of, practice, do a little practicing with people who know how to teach training and teach de-escalation and teach that kind of stuff, because, yeah, you don't wanna get yourself in a place of danger. You don't wanna put other people in danger by misreading the situation, or yeah. So, yeah, being thoughtful and cautious and courageous, all of those things together, so, yeah.
And also going back to, people who are encountering grief and withdrawing from all the media downloads that we're getting. Also pay attention to the nonverbal,
Yeah.
pieces of folks just being, closed off and just tired. Or they might say, "I'm really tired." And the same language can hold true in that moment. Like, "I am so sorry that you're feeling all this, and it is a very difficult time right now. Would you care to, like, sit with me for 5 minutes and just share your heart? Or can I hug you?" Right? Like, these tools are for people on the full spectrum of grief,
Absolutely.
of grief, like
Right?
this is grief 101.
Yeah,
Again.
the persistent grief that is around us all the time. Because
That's
Yeah,
right.
we are
yeah.
I mean, Ana Luisa, you were telling a story about a guy who didn't notice the death all around,
That's
and
right.
I think part of what's happening now is in our world is there is grief and death and suffering all around us all the time, and we're in a time and a place where we just can't go back to sleep and can't go uh,
Mhm.
forget that it's there. It's there
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
time, and we're very aware that we are in the soup of grief and sorrow all the time.
That's right.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
Which is a wonderful way to segue to part 2.
Part
We could
2,
Okay,
come
wait a
back
second.
next week,
come
That's
back next
right.
week,
and
and
we
we
will
will be
talk
more about
about something related.
Well, we're going to be
about
talking about how we see grief all around the world
all
and
around us
all
all
the
the
time,
time. Yeah,
and
yeah,
we
Yes.
dismiss it as par for course for living.
yeah, yeah.